Hello, everyone, and welcome to Herosner podcast. We're going to call this one episode 90. I'm done with the seasons because it's not working out anymore. No more seasons for us. We're just going to roll with it and put numbers. So we'll call this one 90. I think I did the math with a couple of announcements that were at like 90 or something like that.
We should have titled this Shaking the Cobwebs Off.
Yeah, right? Right. It's amateur hour right now. But thank you for taking the time to join us on YouTube. That is if you're watching us. And to all of you who will be listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, we appreciate you tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Vika Slanyan, and always joined by my amazing co-host, Mr. Mike Ballian, where we discuss our great Armenian history, covering different eras, topics, and people. Please hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed and share with your friends and family. Give them the good news. We're back.
Yeah.
If you like what we're doing here at Herosner Podcast, please consider supporting us at going to patreon.com/medherosner. That is patreon.com/medherosner and become a patron. Today's episode will be covering the Cilician Kingdom and its kings who ruled basically from around 1200 to 1340.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot to cover. And but again, we're back. You're back.
I'm back.
Yeah. So how was Armenia, buddy?
It was awesome. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You know, it's not anything I could say that anyone has recently visited hasn't experienced themselves.
Yeah.
You know, you hear the same thing from everybody. So it almost kind of sounds cliche for me to say the second you walk outside, it feels like home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. You went almost a little bit past a year of me being there.
Yeah.
So
I went a little later in the seasons, I guess.
Yeah.
Call it that.
I think you went at the best time. I think mid-September to October is the best time to be there.
The weather,
so many festivals and
there was. I was there for Yerevan Day, which was pretty neat.
The big concert.
I didn't even realize it was Yerevan Day.
Yeah.
Until one of my friends who actually lived in LA. We knew each other. Obviously, we knew each other from here.
Yeah.
Who moved out there like 4 years ago. He'd sent me a flyer, like an online Instagram flyer or something. It's like, yeah, there's this, that going on. I'm like, oh my God, that's right.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, it's the 2,806th birthday of Yerevan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were celebrations by the Cascade
everywhere,
Steps,
everywhere.
the big concert in Republic Square, which was, and I know you ran into Tavo from Hike for Our Heroes. Yeah. He was there.
Yeah, me and Tavo were hanging out like the first couple days. Well, he was already there for like a week, I think. And then when I finally landed, because I was in Spain for a couple weeks, when I landed, he was like one of the first people I hit up the second I kind of got my bearings, because I was like, okay, I can't, because the flight landed at like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm like, okay, can I stay awake? So I managed to do it, and then I fell asleep for a couple hours. I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to go out and hit the town.
That's one thing about Armenia that when you go there, you're either landing. It's always in that late or early AMs, I should say, and if you're taking off, it's always in that same time. Like, it's very weird how they have it.
Cheaper cost.
Yeah.
To operate.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hung out with Tavo quite a bit. We ended up going to Dilijan together.
Yeah. I saw the pictures.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. That was Tavo's idea. Tavo, what's up, man?
But we're gonna do an episode and talk about the experience, and you met some amazing people there, and we'll talk about all that stuff.
It wasn't really a vacation, to say the least.
Yeah. But speaking of Tavo from Hike for Our Heroes, I'm sure you guys saw us announcing the last batch of the Hike Nahapet sculptures are on their way.
Finally.
The white ones are sold out, so don't ask for the white ones, but the bronze ones are still available. And again, the profits of this go to Hike for Our Heroes for all the special projects they do in Yerevan. In Armenia, especially the border villages. They do a lot of work there, and we've helped them as much as we can on our part. And one thing I want to announce about Hike for Our Heroes, they will be doing a poker fundraiser on November 27th. This is the day before Thanksgiving. Most people are already off. If you're in town, we would love for you guys to join us. This will be at the Glen Arden. It's a private club, beautiful, huge room. It's like a cigar lounge. And I'm not sure what the buy-in is, but I believe it's somewhere around $200. They'll announce it, and we'll share it on Instagram. So make sure you guys are following us on Instagram. And again, this is going to be poker night fundraiser. There's going to be food, drinks, just a great crowd. And we're trying to raise funds because of this huge project that they are going to announce that they're going to be doing in Armenia. So we'll announce more. But again, this is going to be on the 27th of November. The other thing I want to mention is, as you all know, one of our last live guests that we had was Dr. Shushan Karapetyan, who's the head of the USC Armenian Studies. Mm-hmm. Amazing guest. And till this day, we have people who reach out to us about that episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
It was such a fun episode. We learned so much, and she is an amazing storyteller. So the USC, Dornsife Institute of Armenian Studies, is hosting it's called basically Artsakh Uprooted. And it's a powerful day-long event, response to the recent ethnic cleansing of the Armenians in Artsakh. This is going to be Saturday, November 2nd. Doors are going to open at 9 a.m. We will be there ourselves. This event will be packed with impactful stories and insights featuring voices from the front lines of conflict, life under blockade, and displacement. It's a unique chance to hear firsthand experiences from some of the incredible people, academics, artists, and community leaders who are sharing their perspective on the many layers of dispossessions faced by the Armenian people. Expect an unforgettable lineup with speakers from Artsakh, thought-provoking discussions, and more. We'll see everything from physical to cultural and psychological struggles examined through the work of scholars across various disciplines. There will be a live rap performance by Loika, who I love. He is amazing. He's a war veteran himself and a rapper from Artsakh, bringing his story to the stage with raw energy. Also, for film lovers, you can catch an exclusive preview of the feature documentary There Was Not by filmmaker Emily McGurchian, known for her impactful multimedia storytelling. And if you're a fan of cooking, local eatery Jingalov Hots will be demonstrating how to make the signature dish of Artsakh. Plus, there's going to be a photo exhibit capturing the displacement and resilience of the Artsakh people. So don't miss this day of culture, history, and raw emotion. Make sure you guys RSVP with the link that you see on the screen. So join us and support. We'll be there. Make sure you are, on that list where they're expecting a big crowd. Again, this is this Saturday, November 2nd. Doors open at 9 a.m. And this is going to be at the USC Bovard Auditorium. The address is 3551 Tursdale Parkway, Los Angeles, California, 90089. So if you're in LA or surrounding LA County, we encourage you to be there. We'll be there. If you see us, come say hi to us. We're excited. It's going to be a great event. Mm-hmm. But that's pretty much it as far as announcements. So today, again, like I said, we're going to talk about the Kingdom of Cilicia between the 1200s all the way up to 1340, the kings that came in and some events that took place. We're going to touch into a little bit of the Crusades as well.
Some more medieval politics.
Yes, a lot. And, excuse us, we're a little bit raw. So we need to polish ourselves. So
maybe it might be a little bit better. It's a little bit more candid.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess you can say that. Yeah. But so we're gonna start. So Mike, the history of Armenia in Cilicia really showcases their courage and determination. We've talked about this previous episodes. They aimed for independent state far from their historic homeland in the Caucasus. If you go back and listen to our previous episodes, you'll find out how we ended up here and everything that took place. The Rubenyan dynasty, which we covered, was crucial after Ani's fall in 1045. So this is about almost 150 years later that we're talking about, and so many other things took place, leading to the establishment of a new kingdom under Baron Levon II.
At the time, Baron Levon II. Yeah, we've briefly talked about Levon II in the past. I know we've kind of done like scratch the surface stuff with Cilicia before. And his political maneuvers regarding Roman Catholic Church, they were quite something, to say the least. And then eventually it led to his crowning in Cilicia and Armenia
as a king.
Yes.
Yeah. And because of that crowning, Cis became the capital. Their legacy was a major influence until the kingdom's demise. Then came the Hetumians after Levon I's death in 1219, basically marking a new era.
Yeah, and the Hetumians, as in Hetum I, the king, his reign brought progress in laws and strengthened ties with Western nobility, all the while eyeing their lost wealth in the Palestinian region. But it seems historians don't always focus on the orderly transitions of powers between the dynasties.
Yeah, true. And after Levon's death, the drama around the throne intensified, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Raymond Ruben tried to claim it through the Rubenyan lineage, but Levon's daughter, Zabel, ended up being favored by the nobles.
Yeah, and then there was a switch with the regency to the Hetumian family after Baghra's assassination. They were pro-Byzantine, but aimed to reduce Frankish influences, right?
Yeah. They pushed for a new wave of Armenian nationalism, with Raymond Ruben out of the picture now, thanks to his capture and defeat by Constantine. Zabel became the uncontested heir.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Constantine's governance seemed to focus on rebuilding an autonomy for the church, which is going to come into play in a little bit.
Yeah.
What was the deal with the Armenian patriarchs during that time?
So the patriarch's position switched a few times due to political disputes. Constantine also looked to the west for allies, marrying Queen Zabel to Bohemond IV's son, Philip, to fend off the Seljuk threat.
Yeah, we've talked about the Bohemonds quite a bit in recent episodes during this crusade era. Yeah. But Philip wasn't favored by the Armenians. He ended up imprisoned and poisoned for stealing crown jewels.
Yeah. I mean, why? Why would you do that?
I don't know. I mean,
Philip.
Sticky fingers, man.
Yeah.
Some people just, I guess, they don't really have enough.
Stealing crown jewels. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you were already like
you're there.
You're there.
You're there.
Like, how much higher do you want to go?
Yeah.
Like, what more wealth do you want, man? I don't know, man. There's not much to say about it. Sticky fingers, Philip.
Yeah. And after Philip's death, Zabel was pushed into marrying Constantine's son, Hetum, leading to his crowning as Hetum I. Their marriage unified the two main dynastic forces, ending a century of rivalry and cementing Hetumian political dominance in Cilician Armenia. Let's
talk a little bit more about the Hetumian dynasty.
Yeah, so their dynasty, I guess we're going to dive into Hetum I right now, who reigned from 1226 to 69. When Hetum I came to power, it wasn't exactly a peaceful time. There were two massive threats, the Seljuks and the Mongols. Both were expanding their territories aggressively.
Very, very aggressively.
Yeah.
If anyone knows their history during this time period, Didn't Bohemond IV try to get his son Philip released from Constantine?
Yeah. But those negotiations failed, and Philip's death led to Bohemond to ally with Sultan Kikobad of Iconium.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, when I read that first time, I wanted to say kebab.
Wow.
So together,
this is how we're programmed. This is how we're programmed.
Yeah, it was like kebab. What?
Yes.
Together, they attacked northern Cilicia, making significant gains and demanding economic concessions.
And the Seljuks, they invaded Cilicia and Armenia more than once, did they not?
Exactly. So
Non-stop.
The first time was in 1233, and again in 1245, they managed to capture strategic areas west of Silifke. It shows how tough times were for Hetum, even having to put the Sultan's name in Arabic script on the coins he minted.
Ugh.
Not good.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That's a deal gone wrong.
Yeah.
Well, what about the Mongols? We talked about how the Seljuks and Mongols both were very aggressive in their attacks. They caused quite a stir.
They sure did. Starting with Genghis Khan and his son Ogodai.
Ogodai.
Is that how you say it? Ogodai. Yeah. Well, depends how you read it, I guess.
No,
Ogodai.
The only way I know that is I think Netflix had a series. Don't you remember the Marco
Polo
show or something? I mean, I stopped watching it in season 2. I don't know how far
I heard
it
it's
went.
a great show, but I gave up.
It was good. It was just really detailed. But I remember this was a while ago, and I remember his son Ogodai was, I think, featured in it, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So
could be wrong.
Ogodai is. So the Mongols wreaked havoc across Asia and Europe. They demolished much of northern China, northern Persia, and even parts of Armenia in the southern Caucasus.
Well, I mean, they had a flair for the dramatic, to say the least. That kind of went into their aggressive expansion into Europe.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Between 1237 and 1241, they cut through Ukraine, Central Russia, Hungary, and Poland, culminating in the defeat of the German armies at how do you say that? Liegnitz in Cilicia. Liegnitz. It was a period marked by relentless conquest and destruction by the Mongols. If you guys know anything about Mongol,
think about the map that you just described, right? Yeah. Ukraine, Central Russia, and think about where they came from, Mongolia and the Eastern Orient region of the world.
To Germany.
Basically all the way to Eastern Europe. I don't know if it went any further from what I remember, but they went north of the Black Sea. It wasn't just down by the Mediterranean in the Middle East, but they also went way up there. So it wasn't some clear path through Asia Minor.
Yeah.
You're talking about they literally encompassed the entire coast of the Black Sea.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go into the Mongol history and everything they did, but it's insane. There's a lot of good podcasts and documentaries about it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of historical information about it. I think, not to be like a stat nerd, but I think by landmass, if there was ever a comparison to maybe the English Commonwealth, which is strange to compare to, but at its height, I think it might have been the biggest empire by landmass was the Mongolian Empire.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Bigger than Alexander.
Dude, think about how far it went. It went.
Yeah, if you think about it,
it covered all of Asia, big portions of Russia, right?
Yeah,
and then Eastern Europe into basically the middle of Europe.
True.
And true. I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a portion of the northeastern part of Africa.
Yeah.
Huge.
So let's dive a little bit into the era of Hetum the first reign. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating sometimes to see how Cilicia and Armenia, amidst the chaos and marauding hordes like the Mongols and the Seljuks, managed to not just survive but thrive. In 1225, tensions were already high with Bohemond IV seeking his son's release from Constantine, but things only escalated from there.
Yeah, the Seljuks were relentless as well, invading Cilicia and Armenia multiple times. But what strikes me the most is Hetum's approach during these turbulent times. Very interesting approach. It wasn't just about military might, but he was quite the diplomat. Had a little bit of finesse to his game.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Hetum's diplomatic savvy was indeed his, you can call it, stronghold. Chronicles like Hayton of Korikos, who we're going to talk about later, and Korikos of Gonzak paint him as a ruler who was not just respected for his wisdom and character, but also deeply loved by his people. Hayton, his nephew, and he even details Hetum's reception of Armenian dignitaries with such warmth, showcasing his deep-seated reverence for the church and his efforts to foster unity among Christians of all nations.
Yeah, it's kind of a portion, it gets kind of lost. That portion kind of gets lost in history. It gets overlooked in history. Is his a part of his leadership, like his diplomacy, right? Yeah. Hetum had a vision that went beyond like some of the immediate threats. Engaging with the Mongols, he was pioneering a form of international diplomacy that was quite ahead of his time.
Yeah, indeed, he was.
I mean, you're trying to stop a force, some way, somehow, or find some ears.
That's
to
a smart man right there. He's not just, he's trying to figure out the best way to protect his kingdom, his people.
It could have very well been a losing fight.
Yeah,
I mean, considering their hordes of legions coming from all over the place.
Exactly. And by him recognizing the Mongol threat early on, Hetum sought out an alliance that many of his contemporaries would have basically looked down upon. His strategic foresight led him to send his brother on a peace mission to the Mongol capital, Karakorum, I guess that's how I pronounce it, in 1247, a move that culminated Hetum's own journey to meet the Great Khan Mongu in 1253.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty remarkable that Hetum himself traveled to pretty much the Mongol capital.
Yeah.
Be curious to find out on what terms, because it's a pretty big distance.
Yeah.
It's a very long distance.
And they traveled.
Jeez.
Wow.
It's not like they
had probably gone for 2 months just traveling there.
More than that, man. Wow. I mean, I can imagine how long that and then you're talking about all the mountainous regions and areas that they had to travel through. Yeah. I'm assuming that it went through, Iran and modern day Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan are super mountainous regions. Yeah. So you're not really dealing with easy terrain.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was pretty bold and unprecedented step for him to take, especially during that era. And his petitions to the Great Khan, they were quite comprehensive, were they not? For seeking Christian conversion of the Mongols to asking for help in liberating the Holy Land. Hetum was playing a long game for sure.
Got a chess master right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people if it worked out.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Hetum's petitions reflected not just as a bid for survival, but a visionary attempt to reshape the political landscape of the time. And surprisingly, this bold gamble paid off in ways. The alliance with the Mongols under Hulagu Khan led to significant military victories, including the capture of Baghdad in 1258 and later Aleppo. Hetum's role in these campaigns helped to secure the return of some territories in Cilicia and Armenia.
Yeah, but this alliance obviously always comes with a cost.
Of course.
There's give and take here, right?
Yeah.
And then depending on the leader, depending on who gives and who takes more.
Yeah.
Baybars's retaliation was swift and brutal. The loss of life and the sacking of cities like Sis and Mamistra must have been devastating for Hetum and his people.
Yeah, it was a dark period. The Mamluk onslaught in 1266 following Hulagu's death was a direct consequence of Hetum's Mongol alliance. Despite attempts at peace negotiations, Hetum couldn't prevent the ravaging of his kingdom, the capture of key cities, and tragic loss of his son Toros in battle were profound blows to him. Basically.
Despite that, Hetum's legacy extended beyond some of these conflicts. His diplomatic maneuvers, including the strategic marriage alliances and the incorporation of Frankish law into Armenian governance, speaks volumes of his effort to secure a future for Sicilian Armenia amidst the geopolitical tumultuous times that he had to endure.
Yeah, that's right. You are absolutely correct, Mike. Hetum's story is,
thank you, sir,
just like, any story we've told, a testament of the complexities of leadership during one of history's most violent periods, right? His ability to navigate through political, military, and diplomatic challenges, fostering alliances with powers at distant and formidable as the Mongols, underscores a legacy of resilience and visionary. For Hetum the First.
Anytime we've ever talked about any military leader or king / military leader who has managed to find the right language, so to speak, diplomatic language with their neighbors, has definitely seemed like it's benefited us in those times. Not sure if I could say the same today, but that's a whole different topic. But anyway,
he ruled for quite a while. 1226 to 69. That's quite.
That's 43 years, man. Wait, 1226 to 69. That's 43 years.
That's a long time for him to be able to, stay as king. And imagine, I'm sure, again, of this,
and for that diplomacy to last for that long.
And I'm sure, the content we find, these are all researches through books and things like that. And it's, I'm sure so much happened internally as well, right?
Oh,
because
of course.
Of all the different nobles.
When does it not? Does it not?
So 43 years is a long time.
But human nature always brings about greed. And there's got to be something in there somehow that maybe, we don't have the necessary details here to discuss, but there's always, 43 years, it's almost impossible to not have some sort of internal strife that he might have had to deal with.
Yeah, of course.
100%.
Of course. So from there on, now we're going to cover Levon II, right?
Yeah.
So he reigned from
1270 to 1289.
Which is 19 years, basically.
Still significant.
So,
Levon II's ascent to the throne sounds like it came during one of Kilicia's or Cilicia's darkest periods. Mourning his father, then stepping into leadership with the kingdom in ruins. That's a heavy mental to assume.
It sure is. It sure is. The patriarch's persuasion reflected the dire need for a strong leadership. Levon's inheritance was a kingdom scarred by conflict and exploitation by the Mamluks. Yet his determination to reclaim Cilician independence is, commendable. His early efforts to align with the Mongols, reminiscent of his father's strategies, underscored the continuity of their foreign policy aimed at countering Mamluk aggression.
You have to pick up where the previous left off and make sure those diplomatic ties are still
we also
strongholds.
Watched his father, kind of, and learned from him.
Absolutely.
And saw what worked, what didn't work. So,
you have to, especially with, let's say, powers at the time like the Seljuks and the Mongols and the Mamluks. Pretty much everybody. Everybody. Anyway, the infamous battle outside of Homs in 1281 must have been a very, very pivotal moment for Levon, or was a pivotal moment for Levon, fighting alongside the Mongols. It was tragic, though. Despite their initial success, Levon was forced to retreat, further complicated by his son Nerses's death.
Yeah, absolutely. The battle was a significant moment, yet it illustrates the turbulent nature of Levon's reign. The subsequent Treaty of 1285 with Sultan.
You got in your time traveling machine there.
Yep. With Sultan Qalawun, I guess. Yeah. However, marked a turning point, offering Levon a chance to focus on rebuilding and strengthening his kingdom from within.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive that somehow Levon managed to capitalize on this period of peace. Yeah. His efforts to improve the lives of his people, the rebuilding of Cis, and extending trade privileges to the Genoese all point to a ruler who was a much aligned statesman as he was a warrior.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he was dealing with the Genoese, if anyone knows, they're, some of the major, not families, but you're talking about some of the bigger banking families or financially powerful families in the Italian area.
Yeah.
From Genoa specifically. It's a lot to say.
Yeah.
Because they were major financiers and dealing with the Catholic Church of the time.
Yeah.
And for centuries after that. So it's pretty impressive.
Very true. Very true. Levon's reign exemplified a blend of diplomatic savvy and compassionate governance. His support for the clergy and the emphasis on culture and educational revival not only bolstered, I should say. See, I'm telling you, we're still rusty. Bolstered Cilician Armenia's immediate resilience, but also contributed to the long-term preservation of Armenian heritage. We've seen other kings do this during peacetime. It's almost reinvesting into the culture, and education is so important, right? And education most of the time was through churches, right? So it was smart of him to kind of concentrate on that, because he was investing into the youth for years to come.
Well, I mean, obviously you'd have to do something like this, because if you're not being nagged or overtaken with any external forces, you're not wasting your resources. Not wasting, I don't want to use the word wasting, but using your resources, financial resources, to fight wars.
Yeah.
So you have to invest in your people and at least fortify that moving forward.
Yeah.
You have to. Anyway, Vadam's, our good historian friend, Vadam's account offers such a personal insight into Levon's character. Portraying him as more of a pious monk than a prudent king speaks volumes about his personal virtues. Yet it also hints at the complexities and internal challenges he faced, not just from external threats, but possibly from his own family.
Yeah.
Dum, dum, dum.
The internal dissension within his court, as noted by Vadam, adds a layer of intrigue to Levon's story. His decision to spare the lives of conspiring family members, choosing forgiveness over vengeance, reflects a deep faith and a certain reluctance to spill blood unnecessarily.
Some might call it weak. Some might call it noble.
Yeah.
Depends on who you ask.
Depends what happened after that, right?
This is a valid point.
Yes.
Levon's death and subsequent infighting among his sons for the throne paint a somber picture of a kingdom struggling to maintain its legacy. The marriage of his daughter Zabel into the Lusinian dynasty seemed like a strategic move, yet it also marks the beginning of the end of the Cilician Armenia.
Yep, indeed, my friend. Indeed. The Lusinian influence signaled a shift in the kingdom's fortunes, leading eventually to its decline.
Yeah.
Despite the valor and vision of its leaders, Cilician Armenia could not fully recover from the devastations wrought by Babars. Levon II's story is a testament, again, to the resilience of a tragic fragility of medieval Armenian statehood.
That it was.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of internal problems, I'm assuming, because of his sons. Again, I'd be curious to see the one thing obviously comes up is power struggle, right? Which son wanted what, who was going to be the heir to what. We're not going to get in depth with that tonight.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious if that also played a role in a partial role into how things kind of started to fall apart at some point.
Call it the ordeals of a royal house, right? So this was something that took place for after his death, right? So it's like about a 4-year span.
Longer than that. I think it was
not 4 years. Sorry, about 14 years.
Yeah. Because I know I think it from what we read, it went past the third. It went into the 14th century.
Early 1303 or something like that. Yeah. So.
After Levon II passed away, it seems like things were. It was always like kind of trying to grapple to stay above water.
Yeah.
Right, with everything. The kingdom's very existence became a tightrope walk between the Mamluks to the south and the Mongols to the east. Not to mention its own internal strife.
Yeah.
So here we go.
And its situation only worsened with Qalawun's demands for Marash and Behesni, showcasing the Mamluks' disregard for any treaties, basically, when it came to expediting their control. Or expanding, not expediting. You could say expediting and expanding. Yeah,
both.
Yeah,
it worked out.
Their capture of Acre, Tyre, Sidon, and Beirut in 1291 was like the final nail in the coffin for the Crusader states along the coast of Palestine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's. I wouldn't say this was exactly what he planned on, to say the least. It's interesting though how the dynamic of power was shifting, not just in Cilicia or the Levant, but globally. The Mongol Empire, another major player, was also experiencing its own turmoil, which further complicated the geopolitical landscape. So he made an alliance, and then one of the greatest empires is now basically having it kind of not collapsing, but it's kind of starting to buckle under its own weight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And back in the West, the enthusiasm for crusades had all but evaporated. Kings and states were moving towards diplomacy and trade agreements, leaving little room for the kind of military expeditions that marked the earlier centuries.
Yeah.
It must have been a daunting time to ascend to the throne for Levon's son, Hetum II. Yeah.
We're
going to talk about.
Yeah. With the fading crusading spirit in the West, Hetum II's reign began under less than ideal circumstances.
Yeah.
The balance between military action and diplomacy was shifting, and it sounds like Hetum II had to navigate this complex transitional period.
Yeah, he was Hetum II was like, thrust into a leadership role at a time when the traditional support from the West was waning, and the threats from the Mamluks were ever present. The political quagmire of the time demanded a new approach where diplomacy became a crucial, if not more so, than military might. Yeah.
So more brains over brawn.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder of how the fate of kingdoms could hinge on the broader geopolitical shifts and the ability of their leaders to adapt.
Yeah.
Very valid point.
Yeah.
Cilician Armenia's struggle for survival amidst these colossal changes speaks volumes about the era's complexity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in general, the story of Cilician Armenia during this period, you're talking about a kingdom that was caught between powerful neighbors, changing political tides, and the need to basically find a new ways to ensure their survival, right?
Sure.
So Hetum II's reign symbolizes a pivotal moment in the history of the Armenian kingdom, as it kind of navigated through all the challenging landscape and all the games they played.
Here's the thought. If you were trained militarily your entire life, coming up as a young heir to whatever, said crown, throne, whatever you want to call it, and now you've kind of got this moment of like, it's all diplomatic wheelings and dealings.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I got to put my sword down and now I got to think.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic because I'd be curious, again, just kind of rhetorical questions or rhetorical thoughts maybe that are bringing up these questions is, were these heirs at the time trained or, not just militarily, but also diplomatically
or groomed?
Yeah,
to be.
because it's not, they're two completely different dynamics.
But let me ask you something. You go back into that time. Nowadays, obviously, if you compare to older empires of today, let's call them,
sure,
right? Obviously, diplomacy is everything because of the weaponry that there is in the world, right? So it could be the destruction and the end of the world. Now you go back,
throw a politician on the war field, and they're gonna come crying home to mommy.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is like the weapons we have now is it could end the entire humanity.
Yes.
Now you would go back then. Obviously, wars would fought through swords and catapults,
or
so
we'd
forth,
like
right?
to we'd like to think so.
Yeah.
This is just.
But what I'm trying to say is, do you think the diplomacy part, if the king came in, a new king, a young king, and he was all about diplomacy and making deals and this and that, was he seen as a weak king because he wasn't using his might, or did they look at him as a smarter king because he was like, I don't want my soldiers or my people to get hurt, to die? Obviously, during wars, there's death on both sides.
Well, I'm sure there was some sort of let's call it a protocol.
Yeah.
Right? Like one king walks in, another king walks in, and they sit down. Now, for all we know, one king is just going to be completely reluctant on even striking a deal.
Yeah.
No, kill, death, die. We're going to take over your lands. I don't want any deals. Right? It's very possible.
Yeah.
Could be. But then let's say you get that guy or queen, whatever. Yeah. How does one manage to find the soft spot, right? Like a really good salesman, like those people who used to knock on your doors and sell knives. It's like, no, go away.
Yeah.
And then somehow you end up with a brand new set of kitchen knives. You know what I mean? Like it's true. Like they had to be savvy speakers, and know who they were dealing with. So they probably, again, now we're kind of getting into storytelling.
Yeah.
We're probably going in, they had to send people to understand who they were going to talk to, right? And how they were and what maybe has transpired. It's like, hey, neighbor, what did he say when you talked to him? Well, he slaughtered 10,000 of our people. Great. How do I deal with this guy?
Interesting,
you know what I mean?
Way to look at it.
It's, if you had training for military purposes, you're like, okay, we're going to stand up and fight, right? Because they're about to come and run us over.
Yeah.
But then it's like, whoa. Sit down, buddy. Let's have a chat.
Yeah.
I could give you this.
So do you think Hetum II was kind of trained or educated to be more of that, not the aggressive king that is, hey, I'm going to go all the way. I'm going to fight till the end.
I don't know because it we're talking about that time period where there was a shift. Yeah. There was a shift in.
I think the entire world of politics was changing. Yeah, right? Yeah. So, and nobody was going after wars.
And so I'm just curious. Again, we're not going to talk about it, but it's a very interesting thought of how one who may have been. This is all hypothetical.
Yeah,
may have been trained militarily. I'm not saying there was no diplomacy training whatsoever, but this is what you've relied on. That we have to be strong. We have to have a strong this. We have to have a strong that. And it's like, oh, well. Well, we don't have to go to war. Who do we have to talk to? Do we have any advisors?
Yeah.
Good
point.
So, I don't know.
Well,
just interesting.
All right, so let's talk about Hetum II a little bit more, and then a little bit about Toros III. He didn't really have anything, not much time, but we'll cover him just a bit. So let's talk about.
So I'll start off with Hetum's story. It reads more like a saga than a chapter of history, with his monastic leanings and the ecclesiastical conflicts that marked his reign. His preference for the Roman Church over traditional Armenian rites seemed to have stirred quite the controversy. Yeah.
His actions, like deposing and banishing Patriarch Constantine II, set off a chain of reactions with the ecclesiastical hierarchy, leading to significant debates and decisions such as the festival of Zurazatik. Now, I tried to do some research on Zurazatik.
Yeah.
nothing really came up except there was this one portion from old Armenian history book that was written by a non-Armenian. And what it was, and again, I could be wrong. If you guys want to research it and let me know, I couldn't find anything that explained what it, but from what I could tell, it was basically, think of Zaltik Easter being celebrated in November. And the Greeks were against it, and other Christian nations at that time were against it. It was so interesting, but I just could not find anything.
I can add something to this, but this is just mere speculation.
Okay.
The Gregorian calendar by which we live with today didn't
10
start
days,
until
right?
No, it didn't start until the 15th century or 16th century. So the calendar was different back then. I'm curious to see what.
That's an interesting point. But again, I couldn't.
I don't know. Just the first thought that popped in my head.
I tried every possible way of spelling it differently, whatever. And like I said, the only reference came up was this one book that had a small section about it, and it was just like it just kind of mentioned what it was.
If you guys have ever heard of it,
I'd love to know about it. But again, this was the political front where Hetum's reign really faced its trials by doing these certain things.
And mind you, this is what, like near the end of the 1200s.
Going into the 14th century.
Basically. Anyway, so there was a siege at Haromkla by Malik Ashraf and the subsequent loss of key cities to the Mamluks. A lot of stuff losing right now. Must have been devastating blows, not just strategically, but also morally for Hetum and his kingdom. Was it not?
It was. And Malik Ashraf's assault only added to the turmoil. His eventual assassination and the actions of his successor, Malik Kithbuga.
Kithbuga,
I guess.
We butchered his name.
We're back at it, baby. We're back. Highlight the unpredictable nature of these conflicts. Despite the temporary restoration of Armenian losses, the patriarch's death in captivity was a significant loss.
Hetum's abdication in favor of his brother Toros III speaks volumes about his character and his inner conflict between duty and personal inclination towards a monastic life.
So there isn't much about Toros the third, but just to give you guys an idea, Toros also was known Toros was basically, he was a king during the Cilician and a member of the Hetum dynasty. He briefly reigned from 1293 to 1295 following the first abdication of his brother, which is Hetum II. Obviously, his reign was short-lived and occurred during, again, this period of intense political instability and family conflict in Cilicia. Toros's reign ended when his brother Hetum II returned to power in 1295. After stepping down, Toros continued to be involved in the affairs of the Cilicia and supported his brother's pro-Mongol policies, which aimed to use the Mongols as allies against the Mamluks. He was assassinated shortly after his abdication, likely due to the complex power struggles within the royal family and the political pressure surrounding the Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia during this time.
You don't do a good job, they just kill you.
So I just wanted to, because there isn't really much about him. So moving on, his reign was marked by the constant push and pull between governance and his desire for solitude. The back and forth power transfer between him meaning Hetum, and Toros, and the eventual usurpation of Sambat reveal a kingdom of perpetual internal conflict.
Lots of interesting internal conflict. It's pretty fascinating how some of these diplomatic missions, like those to the Mongol capital, pretty much intertwined with internal family dramas, as we've been talking about, leading to such a turbulent period in Cilicia's Armenian history. Again, it was a region that was fought for, crossed by almost everybody in the known world at the time, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know how, like, what direction you look.
I mean,
or what decision
like
you would.
right there, right?
I'm not a military leader, thank God.
And even the matrimonial alliance with the Byzantine and Lusinian families further complicated the picture, weaving a dense tapestry of political and, again, family alliances that shaped the region's dynamics. It was just
over
one thing
and
after
over.
another, right?
It's just one. You can't have a day of rest. It seemed like the betrayal by Sambat and the subsequent civil strife within the royal family must have been particularly disheartening. Yeah, it's tragic. It's tragic how Hetum's reign is characterized by so many complicated things, so much complication, betrayals, leading to his eventual permanent withdrawal from the throne. Yeah, which is interesting.
It kind of underscores the complex interplay of personal values, political necessity, and familial loyalty, and and basically that defined Hetum's reign. His eventual retirement in a retreatment. Was it retreatment? Retreatment, right? In favor of his nephew Levon III, again shifts the narrative, opening a new chapter of Cilician Armenia amidst ongoing challenges. I need new glasses, man. This thing is blurring back and forth. I swear to God.
Maybe get some windshield wipers.
It's really weird. I just realized that I think I need to go get rechecked because my it's blurring. I'm like, what's happening here?
It's not that hot in here. It shouldn't be fogging up. Dude.
No. Blurring, not fogging up.
I'm
blurring.
Kidding.
It's I gotta go get this thing rechecked again. So anyways, continuing. Sorry about that. I was just I'm looking at the the letters and I'm like, why is that blurring out? That's weird.
Your eyes are playing tricks on you, buddy. It's been a while. We gotta both sharpen our eyes a little bit, huh?
I know, right?
Hetum's life and reign, with its series of abdications, returns to power, and internal family conflicts, reflect the broader challenges faced during this medieval Armenian leadership time. Yeah. His story is a poignant reminder of the personal sacrifices and high stakes involved in ruling during such a volatile era.
Exactly. And Hetum II's story, while unique, is emblematic of the broader historical currents that shaped the medieval world. Again, his struggles, the turbulent period of Cilician Armenian history, provide deep insights into the medieval statecraft, politics, and all that cool jazz.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
One big salad during that time.
Yeah.
It really was.
But we're going to talk about
Hayton
of Korikos.
Is that how we pronounce his name? Hayton?
Yeah, Hayton of
is maybe the H silent?
Hayton, it's Hayton, but it's also Hetum.
Hetum, yeah. But it's interesting how it's of Korikos.
Yeah.
Holy or unholy alliances?
I don't know. Sure.
It had to be said in an English accent a bit.
Yes.
It was really bad, but whatever. So after Toros' death in 1280, Hayton assumed the title of Lord Korikos. It's interesting to see how intertwined the familial and political alliances were, particularly with his marriage to Isabel del Bellin, strengthening ties between the Armenian and Cypriot nobilities.
The union between Hayton and Isabel was not just a matrimonial alliance, but a strategic move that solidified the bonds between key dynastic families, ensuring mutual support and strengthening the positions of Cilician Armenia within the regional power dynamics. I'm just fixing my glasses.
Wow, I was like, what's going on here?
I'm seriously having an issue. I mean, I don't know what's going on with these.
Really?
They keep blurring back and forth. It's unbelievable.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, these are progressive, but I've been wearing this for a long time, and I feel like I don't know what's going on. It's weird every time. So, but anyways, we'll go through.
Does it shift when you move? If let's say you move back and forth?
Well, see, the way it's designed is it's progressive, meaning like there's a certain section where when you're reading,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be, make it magnify it. But again, I've never had this kind of an issue where it's blurring. So I think my eyes have gotten worse. And I need to go get rechecked so they can readjust these. So excuse me for that.
Technical difficulties with the Vic's glasses.
Yeah, I give myself a C for this reading.
Anyway,
I'll do better next time.
Hey, I could take over, buddy, if you want me to finish it all off. No worries.
All right.
Hayton's role extended far beyond that of a mere chronicler. He actively participated in shaping the political landscape of his time, even proposing a new crusade to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control, illustrating his crusading spirit and vision for a Christian resurgence in the East.
Right. His zeal for crusading was clear in his writings, especially in the fourth book of his, which was La Fleur des Histories de la Terre de Orient.
Okay. I would have probably butchered it too.
Yeah. And I don't know what I just said, where he advocates for a crusade led from Cilician Armenia and Cyprus.
It sounds like, I'm going to take a stab at probably saying the flower of the historical flower of the land of the Orient.
You know what? I actually had a reference somewhere here about that. I think it says the flower of... Yeah, you're right. The flower of the histories of the East. That's what
Orient,
it means.
East, yeah. Damn, I was...
Pretty good, Mikey. All right. So...
Logic kicks in sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. So, it seems like Hayton preferred a monarch who embodied these... martial virtues, I guess you can call it. Stark contrast.
Yeah, it looks like, from the sound of it, it looks like he was trying to kind of...
from Hetum II's peaceful reign to this.
He was trying to kind of propagate or start up, maybe flare something up again to kind of rally the troops to go at it again, right?
Yeah.
His activities, Hayton's activities went beyond the written word. His journey to Cyprus in 1305 and his involvement in the 1306 rebellion against King Henry II of Cyprus show him as a figure deeply engaged in the political intrigues of the time, suggesting a preference for proactive leadership over Hetum II's more reserved approach.
Yeah, right. And his alignment with Amuri of Tyre, supported by the military orders like the Templars of Hospitallers, I guess that's how you pronounce it, further underscores his active involvement of the political and military affairs of the reign. Amuri's aggressive policies in Cyprus, contrasted with Henry II's passivity, must have resonated with Hayton's own political and military inclinations.
Yeah, Hayton's appointment by Pope Clement V as a canon regular and his subsequent mission to Poitiers to present his work to the Pope highlights his stature and influence. Yes, he was needed by the Pope.
Yeah.
His negotiations in Genoa on behalf of Cyprus and his brief return to the island before heading back to Cilicia. I always want to say Cilicia.
Say Cilicia. Okay.
That's fine. Point to his significant role in the diplomatic sphere as well. I think it was probably the amount of Cilicia beer that I must have had in Yerevan.
Isn't it good?
On tap. Man. On tap.
Oof.
Nothing compared to the beer here.
Don't go there. I miss it.
Oh, yeah. Wait. Off topic. Did you have any of the other new beer that they have in Armenia? Darget? Did you have that? And
I did have Darget. Where were we? Oh, my God.
Dude, I got introduced to it on this trip, and it was awesome.
I'm trying to remember where we were.
I mean, there's a place. They have a place. They actually have a specific place.
Yes. No, but this was
and
this was from a bottle.
The brewery is just slightly outside, like north of Yerevan.
I think we were in some cafe or something, and one of our friends from there said, "Try this one," because I was drinking Cilicia all over. I didn't care. It was all about Cilicia. And he's like, "Try this," and it was really good.
Yeah, it was really good beer, man. Yeah. And then there was another one. They had Alexandropol. Did you try that?
No, I haven't tried that.
I think that one's being brewed in Gyumri. And it was very good.
But there is a beer from called Gyumri, isn't there?
Yeah. Armenians are doing a damn good job with the beer.
But is it under the Gyumri beer brand?
I didn't look. I didn't look. But a lot of the places, some places had Alexandropol and some places didn't. Darget was kind of specific in some places. I mean, Cilicia was everywhere.
Yeah.
But man, we're doing good with beers, man.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
I mean,
we're
honestly,
doing pretty good with
that
beer.
was my go-to because, again, especially during the daytime, I'm not into the heavy liquor. It was just like it's a nice lager, right?
Yeah. You're not drinking to drink. You're drinking because it actually tastes good.
Yeah.
You would prefer that over soda, 100%. Anyway,
we digress.
Yeah, we digress. But it was just
we went somewhere.
Cilicia went on a tangent to beer. Sorry.
So, upon his return to Cilicia, drinking beer, the political landscape he navigated was intricate, with alliances and familial connections playing a crucial role. His daughter's marriage to King Oshin I of Armenia and his eventual role as a constable of the kingdom illustrates a intertwining of family ties and political power.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how Hayton's life and actions wove through the fabric of the political and military history of the time. From proposing crusades to negotiating treaties.
Yeah.
Almost sounds like I don't know, it's weird, right? And from participating in political rebellions, God, this guy was kind of cool.
Yeah.
To influencing the succession of thrones. His impact was profound, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
kind of covered all the grounds.
Yeah.
It's like, let's start the Holy Wars.
I feel like it's sheet out the voice.
Totally. Like,
how do you translate that sheet out the voice?
I don't know. Like, but I mean, think about it. Like, he's negotiating treaties. He's proposing crusades.
Yeah.
Like participating in political rebellions.
Yeah.
This guy was like the jack of all trades. Like,
I mean,
he was a number one draft pick to war.
Yeah. Realistically, his contributions, to the history of Cilicia, you can say, was significant. I mean, the guy was trying. He was trying to secure the political voice for Armenia, alongside with, actions of influence and political climate and so forth. The guy was trying. I mean, he meant well.
I mean, I'm not saying he didn't. His should we touch on his chronicle?
Well, we're gonna get into it. Where is it? I think. Well, this is kind of touching it.
We're touching on it. Hayton's chronicle, also known as the La Fleur de oh man, this is gonna be bad. Estoire de la Terre de Orient.
Yeah.
Which basically translates into the flower of the histories of the East, is a historical account of the Crusades and the political dynamics of the Middle East in the early 14th century.
Yeah.
Written by Hayton of Korikos, a notable Armenian noble and monk from Cilicia. It was composed in 1307 during his time at the court of Pope Clement V in Poitiers, France.
Yeah. This is just a small something that I wanted because... these things that we're talking about, a lot of people might kind of get lost, but like, who's this, who's that? That was just to let you know who he was, and you can learn more about him. And if you type in Hayton's Chronicles, there's a lot of information about him.
I'd be curious to try and read an English translation of this, because I mean, if he chronicles the Crusades, that's got to be pretty fascinating to read about.
Yeah,
actually,
I'm sure it is.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hayton's chronicle really spans a pretty broad spectrum.
Yeah.
From geography to the detailed history of Asia's rulers and the Mongol Empire's ascent, leading up to the full-blown proposal of a new crusade. Pretty comprehensive.
I'd say. Absolutely. The chronicle is a fascinating mix of history, geography, and political strategy. Hayton's work, especially the idea of using Cyprus and Armenia as a launch pads for recapturing Jerusalem, was, I guess you can call it, visionary.
Yeah.
It's interesting to note how the chronicle, even centuries after his creation, or its creation, I should say, caught the attention of influential figures in England, like Edward Stafford, the Duke of Buckingham.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about
centuries later. The Duke of Buckingham. Wasn't he a significant figure in the Tudor family?
He sure was.
Yeah.
He sure was. Yeah.
Yep. Or the Tudor court or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, having claims to the throne and all the lineage connecting him back to Edward III, very significant character, by the way, Edward III, and the first crusader, Godfrey of Bouillon.
Godfrey.
It makes sense why a proposal for a crusade would appeal to him. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Buckingham's interest in the chronicle wasn't just about curiosity. With its prestigious lineage, obviously, and the political climate of the time, especially post Latin Council of 1515, a new crusade was more than just a religious or military campaign. It was a political statement and an assertion of noble heritage and rights.
Yeah, you're talking about what, 200 years later?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. And using Hayton's chronicle as a guide, more or less, Buckingham and others at the Tudor court could find not just historical precedent, but also practical advice on forming alliances, even with the Mongols, to achieve these grand ambitions.
Yeah.
That's how significant the Mongols were. They lasted for a long time.
Yeah. And Hayton's work provided a blueprint for a crusade that leveraged the geopolitical realities of his time. His suggestions for alliance and strategic military bases show a deep understanding of the balance of power. It's kind of fascinating how his insights remained relevant. Were even being considered, right, for Tudor England's political strategies. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like 200 years later.
I mean that's how it works. If there was some sort of strategic military leader that had something that could be used over and over again, it's kind of where we are today, right? Is it not? Everything that has been used in the past is just being used today. It's not like our ancestors from 800 years ago who were military leaders or kings or queens or whatever the cases were idiots.
Yeah.
They knew what the heck they were doing, probably more so than people from today.
That is
guaranteed.
Very true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
again, we've talked about this in the past. History books kind of make it sound like the people from hundreds of years ago were not as smart as us today.
No,
I beg to differ.
I think that comes from the fact that we have technology now and all this stuff, so people think back. But
information is at the tip of your fingers.
I mean, they were all playing chess back then, and that's all it was. So,
and staring at the stars.
Yeah,
and staring at the stars.
Good point.
Staring at the stars.
Enduring the nature of Hayton's chronicles and its appeal to figures like the Buckingham. Underscores the persistent allure of the Crusades in European imagination, right? Yeah. It's kind of like a testament to the power of history to shape the present and future, bridging centuries through the aspirations and actions of those who look to the past for inspiration.
Yeah.
That's why history is important. So look to the past.
Yeah, you learn a lot from the past because it puts everything into perspective today. Literally everything.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a really specific special episode about Hayton's chronicles, and
we can if there's enough
to the list of content we need to.
Well, I mean, if there's enough information we can find on that book. I mean, right?
We need to read the book.
We'd have to read the book first. Yes. And then maybe we could talk
another
about
one on the list.
Oh boy,
what did we get ourselves into?
It's okay. It would be like I said. I've always been fascinated to a degree with the Holy Wars, with the Crusades.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the Crusades within the Cilicia. Yeah. There's a part where again, the last episode were like the first kings and then or barons, you want to call the princes, until Levon I. This is kind of the continuation of that, but there are other things that took place during these Cilician reigns, king reigns and queens, so forth, that we're going to cover as well. And we'll probably do that next episode. But Right. So
anyway, moving on
Levon
to
III,
Levon III,
who reigned literally 4 years.
for 4 years, 1303 to 07.
Yeah.
Levon III's reign begins with a return to familiar places, seeking counsel from his uncle Hetum II within the monastery walls.
Yeah.
It's poignant considering the violent end his father met. Levon's reliance on such advice illustrates the deep familial bond and the respect for Hetum's wisdom despite his retirement.
Yeah. And the ecclesiastical
There you go.
word,
There you go.
reforms attempted by Patriarch Grigor the Seventh, aiming for a more regulated church ceremony, show a kingdom in transition, trying to balance tradition with reform.
Yeah.
The effort to align the Armenian church closer to Chalcedonian Christianity was a bold move, given the deep-rooted traditions of Armenian Orthodox faith.
Yeah, the division it caused amongst the people is what's really important here, with some leaning towards the new doctrines, which we always see today, while the majority clung to traditional beliefs, which we also see today. See? History always repeats itself. Must have been a significant challenge for Levon. His decision to enforce these changes despite the discord speaks to a ruler willing to make tough choices of what he saw for the greater good.
Yeah. But those choices had severe repercussions.
They usually do.
Yeah, the opposition's alliance with Bilargu, the Mongol Khan, who had recently converted to Islam, against Levon and Hetum, underlines the complex interplay of religious and political loyalties of the time. The refusal to allow a mosque in Sis, basically, which was the capital, was the spark of an already volatile situation.
Heaven forbid they build that mosque.
Yeah.
Is that kind of happening today too?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
look at Artsakh.
Well, I'm not just talking about Armenian region, in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Nope, don't build that mosque.
Yeah.
You know? The tragic end of Levon III and Hetum II in Anazarba at the hands of Bilargu was a stark reminder of the dangers of the geopolitical and religious Game of Thrones they were part of.
Yeah.
Their assassination not only marked the end of their lives, but also a significant turning point in the history of Cilicia or Cilician Armenia.
Yeah. Their deaths kind of underscore the, position Cilician Armenia found itself in, caught between the own internal religious reforms, the changing dynamics of Mongol politics. I mean, can you imagine being under that pressure? The conversion of Islam with Mongols going to Islam.
They spent so long trying to convert them to help them, and now it's like, well, we're just gonna.
Levon III's and Hetum II's attempts to reform the diplomacy were cut short in a brutal reminder of the era's kind of ruthlessness. Right?
What a bunch of headless chickens those Mongols are.
Hey,
like,
be nice.
No,
man.
hold on for a second. Like, we've been talking about this for the last hour, and they switched to somewhat Christianity to help one group.
Yeah.
And then they decided to completely switch religions. I mean, you're switching religions. You're not changing a dress. You're not buying new shoes. You're switching religions, man.
I wonder what the reason was. Was it because of the Seljuks?
I mean,
was it because of, at that time.
I don't know. Is this supposed to be a politically correct show?
No.
Okay,
we're talking about history. These are things that happened.
I know, but what a bunch of headless chickens. Seriously, though. How does...
You're being so PC.
Oh, God. What does it take? What does it take for 100... within what? We're talking about a 50 to 100 year span here.
Yeah.
Right? In that time frame.
Yeah.
One guy convinced you and your hordes of people all the way to Mongolia convert to Christianity and help us fight this, fight off other hordes.
Yeah.
And then somehow that was maintained for a while, and they're like, nah, this guy offered us a better deal. We're gonna switch
backdoor deals.
We're gonna switch to Muslim.
Yeah. Backdoor deals.
Peace, Christians.
Yeah.
Just strange.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of this kingdoms and eras and stuff, and we're going to talk about.
It's like
it's
like a serious version of WWE.
I like
Sorry,
that.
I'm being a wise nut today.
You are.
I am. I'm being a very big wise nut today.
I have connections.
Introduce me.
Yeah, I will. Introducing. Jesus. We're going to talk about Ocean I, who ruled from 1308 to 1320, and Levon IV, which was the last Cilician king, 1320 to 41. Again, this is very short, quick, nothing major, but it was just like,
they occupied time in Cilician
it was
Armenia.
pretty much the end of it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, Levon, they served pretty significant time.
Yeah.
They did. We're talking about a pretty long time here.
I know, but
Levon.
All right, let's read and then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Anyway, so the succession of Ocean to the throne after the tragic demise of Hetum and Levon III really seemed to throw Cilician Armenia into a whirlwind of political and religious turmoil. His marriage to Zabel, daughter of Hayton, was strategic, aiming to cement the alliances within the ruling dynasties. Yet the religious controversies that Levon III left behind couldn't be easily quelled.
Yeah, and Sarkis declaring ecclesiastical again. I swear that word. Independence in Jerusalem and aligning with Bilarhu, it underscored the deep fractures within the Armenian church. Ocean's instance on the clergy adhered to the pro-Roman canons ignited further dissent, clearly showing the complexity of navigating these waters.
Yeah, Ocean's reign was further complicated by his external alliances, notably his marriage to Joanna of Sicily, which yielded little more than symbolic support from the Pope. His efforts to fortify the kingdom internally while facing such external pressures paint a picture of a reign besieged by a bunch of challenges on all fronts.
Yeah. His rule ended with his death in 1320, after which his young son Levon IV succeeded him, continuing the efforts to preserve the kingdom's autonomy and, again, a hostile region,
Yeah, Levon IV, by the way, he reigned for 21 years.
Yeah.
21 years. 1320 to 1341. That's still a pretty long time, man.
Yeah, and the transition to Levon IV with Ocean Pale, or Pale, I don't know how you say that.
Pale.
Ocean Pale, stepping as a regent, introduced yet another layer of political intrigue. The regent's quick actions to secure his influence through the strategic marriages and appointments highlighted the ongoing struggle for stability within the royal court and a wider kingdom. Now, you have to remember something, and we'll talk about Ocean of Korikos or Ocean Pale. Just something small about him. Levon IV was very young when he became king. So Ocean kind of stepped in and served as their...
Mentored him?
Yeah, like a mentor to the young king. Ocean was a prominent noble and a relative of the royal family who held significant influence within the kingdom. So after the father's death, Ocean the first death in 1320, obviously Levon ascended to the throne at a very young age, making regency necessary, right? Ocean of Korikos took this role, effectively ruling on behalf of Levon IV and overseeing the kingdom's affair during his minority. Now, there was something I read where people weren't too happy because they believe he was always behind. As Levon got older, he was behind his ear, and a lot of the decisions made and the ultimate, fall of the kingdom.
Well, it makes sense if somebody was there advising such a young king.
He was ruling. Basically, he was ruling through Levon. Levon was too young to make, so he was calling the shots.
Yeah, I mean, if I would imagine if maybe he felt more comfortable that way, since he, his reigns were kind of like, okay, I'm stepping away, and now I can just kind of play shadow government here, sort of. I don't want to put a negative spin on it, but it's kind of true. Maybe some of the pressure was off of him. Right? It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to be the face of any criticism. Yeah. I'm just going to...
He's the puppet master.
Yeah. I mean, possibly. But anyway, Levon IV's drastic measures against his own family, driven by a mix of paranoia and desperate grip on power, reflect a reign marred by internal strife. The king's actions underscore the volatile nature of his rule and the severe challenges he faced in maintaining his throne. Now, that adds a little bit more context or speculation on my end with Oshin, Oshin being kind of the voice there, because who knows if maybe he was advising against his family.
True.
Umer Kharnum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So much we can speculate with this
too much.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's awesome.
The intensification of religious conflict during Levon IV's reign, especially with the emergence of the Uniters, brought the kingdom's underlying tensions to the forefront. The assassination of Levon IV, motivated by opposition to his pro-Latin stance, marked a tragic end to the reign that struggled with both internal division and external threats.
Yeah.
This was
taken out. I mean, there's, if you've got that much... I mean, if you're paranoid about something, that means something's coming.
Yeah. But do you think his assassination... I wonder what happened to Oshin, but his assassination eventually was caused because of decisions made by, Oshin and the direction.
I'm sure whatever.
I don't want to make it seem like Oshin was a bad guy, but I just feel like, I don't know why I have this. Again, I don't know much about him. We have to do more research to find out if there is more
does it
information about Oshin.
Does it not feel almost like he was a little bit of a puppet king? It almost sounds like one king stepped away from the pressure. Mm-hmm. Now he turned into advisor.
Yeah. I wonder how young he was. So let's say if he was a teenager, so by the time he became of age, at what point
that's really easy to manipulate.
Yeah, at what point does a young boy turn into a man when he can make his own decisions, right?
And so back then it was different. We can't apply it to today's standards.
Of course, I understand. So maybe in his early 20s. So
earlier than that, man. I mean,
really to make those kind of
I mean, back then, boys were men a lot faster than today.
I understand that, but I just don't know at what exact age
are you ready to be a king.
I don't know what age he was when he became a king. Obviously, it says he was very young. Okay, it was young, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9. What is it? So then he ruled for 21 years. So I'm trying to figure out the math here. If he became a man, let's say at 18. So that's almost 10 years if he was a very young boy when he became king. 10 years gone already. So another 10 years of obviously this man who's been on his ear constantly. Yeah. Obviously, he followed his... Again, this is all speculation. I don't know, but that's the feeling I'm getting.
But it always brings up interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely does. But anyway, so the whole saga that we've been discussing from Levon II all the way to Levon IV pretty much underscores the complexities and the turbulent history of Cilician Armenia or Cilicia. It's a narrative filled with ambition, political machinations, deep-seated religious divisions, all playing out in a kingdom trying to navigate its place in a rapidly changing medieval world.
You are correct, my friend. This period from 1289, I keep saying 18, to 1341 is not just a tale of political and religious strife. It is a testament and to the resilience of the Armenian spirit, despite the fragmentation and eventual decline of the kingdom, the enduring legacy of its rulers, their success and their failures contribute to the rich tapestry of our history and its incredible impact to the region. It really did have an incredible impact to the region. Till this day, obviously, we talk about it, and
Well, I mean, Cilicia was such an important. I mean, it was probably one of the most important times in our history.
Yeah, it sure was. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. We this is all we could do is to cover all these kings. I mean, the strategy we kind of put together was to talk about all the kings because there's so many, right? You're talking about a huge couple of centuries of kings one after another. We'll dive a little bit deeper.
One can make a show out of this.
You can.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Sure
There's so much information and so many different angles you can bring in that information.
Yeah. If there was only funds.
Well, you can have one season on. You can have just one season on the Mongols converting to Christianity, and then the second season will be how they converted to.
You're still on that, huh?
Yes, I am.
You're just not gonna let it go.
Yes, I am.
Right.
I mean, that's 2 seasons right there.
Yeah.
12 episodes.
12 episodes.
Not 6, not 8, 12 each.
You can push 15 if you want. Right?
Turka kan serial dara. It's 75 episodes in the first season.
Yeah. That's pretty much it for this episode, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We apologize for the mistakes, especially on my end, my glasses. And like I said, I give myself a C on this one. I give you an A. And
I'm just being a wise nut about certain things.
You keep mentioning wise nut. I mean,
it's the word. No.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. We love the wise nuts.
Hi, Arno.
Hi, Arno. Hi, Armand. By the way, while you were gone, I was helping them produce the show.
I saw.
And I had to send them a message saying, boys.
Send them a bill.
Yeah, send them a bill. Force them to become a Patreon.
Here's my invoice, guys.
Yes. But speaking of Patreon, make sure you guys, if you like what we're doing, go support us. Become a Patreon. We have different levels. It's not much. $5 a month, $10 a month. It's like buying coffee for us. It helps, guys. It helps because, all this time and effort we're putting in there, we try to use those funds for equipment, and we still are trying to create a new studio with different backgrounds and things like that. But it takes money, time, and
Well, with the right support, I mean, it's not that much, but with the right support, we might actually get someone pressing some cool buttons.
Yeah. And especially with the live shows, it's difficult to produce a show while you're trying to interview. But follow us on Instagram for updates and all the events that we're doing, fundraisers, so forth, and announcements in general.
Yeah, and come hang out with us at some of the events we're gonna be attending.
And make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. It's very important that you like the episode. It helps with the whole algorithm now that we've been away for 3 months or more, I think, at this point. About 3 months, right? We've been off. We haven't put an episode out. We need to get back into the groove.
Well, we planned on it for a while. We can be a little transparent. We planned on almost every week.
Yeah, but something
it was
came
either
up.
Something on my end that came up, or it was something on your end that came up. So that was the 3-month vacation was not actually planned.
Yeah,
and be that way.
Obviously,
it really
was.
Wasn't.
Went to Armenia, so we weren't going to do this long distance.
I booked the trip. Like a month before I went.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even something that was in the works from way back then. It just, work-related things on both our ends just kind of was the perfect storm.
Well, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, man.
And you
Good
did
to be back.
Give me a pinky promise.
I'm living up to it.
Yep. And I appreciate that. We could have done the whole, no.
Or next time we could just do this.
That or, Blood Brothers, like cut.
That I'd rather do.
Yeah?
Let's go.
Anyways, we're a bunch of goofballs here. We love being back, and we enjoy that. I missed this. Like I said, this was too long. And
it can be therapeutic at times.
And I do want to mention we have content set up for more episodes. We're gonna try to do our best to do this on a weekly basis, and then with the guests, we're working on some great guests to be part of this show. Historians, people are doing some amazing stuff that blew our minds when we found out. So
there's some people that I met at the Maten Adaran that we can talk to. Just have to kind of get confirmation from a few of those folks.
Yeah. Well, it's all in the works.
Yeah.
It's all in the works.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, do you know? Did you go there?
Of course.
Did you see the expanded wing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
the amount of videos I've taken.
Yeah.
Over
it's like
there.
I was. It's twice as big as the main Maten Adaran, the original.
It's too much. It's too much. I mean, there was a point where
Still not open yet.
I couldn't. Like it. It's hard to take all that in. It's so much on display, so much, and you're just like. And the thing is, I kind of went at the wrong time where it was really busy, and there's people crowding it. So you want to take the time to kind of read about this artifact that's there, right? Especially all the old, scriptures and things like. It's unbelievable, and you're just like, I felt like I was rushed.
Well,
plus I was with the kids.
I
like,
felt the same way the last. Well, unfortunately, somehow it ended up on the last day I was there when I went to the Museum of History.
Mm. At
Haraparak to go see the Anahite exhibit.
Yeah, you got to see that. Yeah.
I didn't know they had an Andranik exhibit.
Really?
Yeah, that had just started. I mean, there wasn't much stuff in it. I have pictures.
Yeah.
Of his original sword, and all that cool stuff, all of the medals and everything, and it's running until mid-February.
You think we can make it?
I don't know. Guys, Patreon now. We want to take a field trip to Yerevan. No, I'm kidding.
Listen, join Patreon.
Listen, I'm not going to reveal much, but there's a very big possibility. You know it.
Yeah.
I might be back there.
We might have a long distance relationship.
Yes, it might happen.
Hey, more power to you.
Yeah,
I hope so. I hope so.
I hope so too.
But all right, enough chit chat. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. As we always say at the end of every show, respect one another,
love one another.
Until the next episode, take care of yourselves.